Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us a returning guest. He has an amazing movie, which I had a chance to see a little bit of the clips, and it's called Scream Dreams, as well as he has one that's also going to be coming out soon that's called Deadly Dealings. I have with us director Adam Freeman. Adam, welcome back to the Horror Room.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. So, give us a little bit of an update on Scream Dream.
So currently, we're still in post right now. We did open up a finishing funds campaign. We had several people that was asking if we were going to open up another campaign, so we did open up another one, and that is to help out with the post production process. We've got editing to get through, and we've got some more visual effects that we're going to be doing, and we also have music that's got to be composed and a score that's got to be composed. So that's right now is what we're trying to get finished. But we are seeing the first look at the footage on here, and it's been very mind blowing. My expectations for the film was completely blown out of water with my team that I had, and I'm really excited about it.
Adam, I was telling you before in our pre-interview, I was like, Gem and the Holograms. This
Yes.
is Gem and the Holograms. By the way, for kids who don't know, Gem and Holograms was a cartoon that was on in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was about she was a superhero, or I know she was a rock band. She was in
She
a rock band, but she
she
had
was
powers, did she?
she was in a she was the daughter of a music studio owner, and basically he passed away, and she inherited that studio along with another person who was trying to kind of take over the father's business partner, and the father made a supercomputer called it's like a hologram, and it turns her identity into a superstar, and she performs as Jim, and she has to keep her identity hidden quite often.
My sister loved Jim, and she even had an action figures. I remember briefly watching the cartoon with her, and
Yes.
like that's the first thing I saw was Jim and the hologram. I was like, this reminds me of Jim and the holograms. So, so this movie is a. Would you say it's a reboot or a remake?
It's a remake of a film from 1989 called The Scream Dream of the same name. It starred Melissa Moore, who is a huge Scream queen. I actually had a poster of her in my bedroom growing up. But she was in the film. It was directed by Donald Farmer. And this is a remake, but we took the story, basically all the pinpoints of the original story, and we added on to it, gave characters backstory, added new characters. We took the sock puppet and actually turned it into a demon, a full blown demon, which I play that role, and it was a lot of fun playing that role. But we went all out to really give it that '80s aesthetic, and my biggest inspiration for the film was Jim and the Holograms. And when you watch the show, Jim, you'll notice that it's very pastel, got a lot of pastels going on, and that's something that I did in my previous film. So I wanted to bring that to Scream Dream, and I wanted to go all out with it with like the '80s eye art, but I wanted to do a spin and do like glitter '80s eye art, everyone covered in glitter. Um, of course, we have like shimmery costumes, holographic costumes, very wild and beautiful colors throughout the entire thing. I want to say that there was no white lighting in the entirety of the film. So everything is 100% aesthetic. Everything is colored. Everything is multicolored. It is extremely aesthetic. It's so sick to look at.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, like, what were the challenges with the lighting? Because I mean, because they're bouncing off to get that look, that feel. I
Yeah.
mean, that had been challenging.
It was. We raised 22,000 through Indiegogo. But one of the things with Indiegogo is, they have to take their part. So
Hmm.
we had 17,000 to work with. That's a pretty big chunk. But
Yeah.
my other half, Steve, he put in 20,000 into the project himself. I put in just as much. We're looking at about like a little over $60,000 budget film. But what we did with the campaign was we had about props. It takes place in like 87 is kind of like where I'm wanting to like take the inspiration from. Like I feel like that was the height of the 80s. You had like
Hmm.
the makeup, the huge hair, and of course like fishnets. So everybody has fishnets, but and studded colorful leather. But so one of the things we had to do was we had to buy lighting. So we bought neon lights. We bought a ton of light bulbs that change color. We bought multiple lights just to set around in the room. We bought lamps. We bought 80s props. I know, like, we bought like a boom box that was a radio and tape player from the 80s, and it's like pastel pink, $300 just for that. But it
Wow.
looks so good in it, and we use it often in the film. But then we had to buy like a ton of makeup, and I want to say we bought like makeup off like Timu and what is it, AliExpress, Sheen, things like that. And we were able to get like a lot at a decent price. So we spent like $500 just on
Wow.
makeup with like brushes and everything. So everybody had their own brushes. Tons and tons and tons of glitter. Had to buy lube to get the glitter to stay. Hairspray. And so many more like smaller props and everything. And that's where that first Indiegogo went, was for the look of it and to, of course, secure our locations and our actors and get flights. So a lot of that went there.
Now, the original you were saying was made by Donald Farmer, who I've had the
It
pleasure of
was.
interviewing him. I mean, just a icon, in the indie horror
Hmm.
industry for decades. Now, did you bounce any ideas of him? Did you work with him in regards
Um,
to this project at all?
I have been in a few of Donald's films before. I had did Cannibal Hookers, and I did Bigfoot Exorcist, Shark Exorcist 2, Debbie Does Demons. And working with Donald is always so fun. It's really different. It's really different from any set that I've ever been on. And not even because it's low budget, it's just the way that he does things is so unique, and not in a bad way at all. Like, I actually really like it. I think that it takes that to really get that shot on video style to really bring in that camp style what he does. And with this though, I wanted to really the purpose was taking a shot on video film and turning it into like a cinematic art piece. And I I already had like my own vision for it. So when before anything, I had actually years ago had wrote Donald and I asked him if I could do a remake. And I wrote a script for him and I let him see it. In like 5 minutes, he was like, "No."
No.
but but um, I had been persistent, and I had went years later, and I had already had undergone like several rewrites, and at that point, I had been writing like 10 hours a day, up to around like 8 months, maybe like a few days off in between that. So I was writing a lot, and he has like when he, I think like with him, he looks more for like kind of like a requel, kind of like how Cannibal Hookers was. It was a sequel, but it's still kind of like a remake. And I really just wanted to bring that like captivating like story together. And one of the things that I had in the contract when he signed it was that I'm given 100% complete creative control over the project. And he saw my film Deadly Dealings, and he knew that I would take it and do something really great with it. And he said yes. And that's kind of like, that's that's pretty much it. Like, I've kept him updated with everything, and updated with like what we're doing, like where we're at. Like, I let him see stuff beforehand, but he wasn't a part of the creative process on it. But he definitely had a big hand in letting me be able to do this.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, so what are some fun perks that you have out right now for the Indiegogo for the post production?
Well, right now, if you buy a copy of the film, that goes straight to the post production of it, and we already have those that like the stock of everything that's being bought off of Indiegogo covered through our distribution that we have. And we do have posters for sale. We do have a memoriam, which is something that I brought back from my last film because we did that during COVID. And of course, a lot of people lost people during COVID. So I was like, let's just put something up that would be really nice. Something for the actors to be able to say, like, goodbye. And I had lost my aunt at the time, and and my uncle, and it was extremely horrible situation. But we got through it, and I got to let her see Deadly Dealings before she passed. It wasn't completed, but it was enough to make sense. And I was like, I'm going to dedicate this film to them. So what we have up in Screen Dream is, I think that in the horror community, even recently, there was a person that I had worked with on a trauma film who passed away, and a lot of people wanted to remember him. So I was like, hey, let's have a memoriam up. So we're allowing like people who may have lost their best friends that watched horror movies, or somebody who always dreamed of being an actor or having their name in a film. That's what that particular park is for. It's to remember them by, and we have that one up. Special thanks, obviously. Anything that people buy, like even if they don't even buy an item, Indiegogo gives us a list of kind of like an itemized list of like everything that was bought, who bought it, unless they like hit anonymous, because if they do it anonymously, I can't do this. But anything that people give, their name goes into the credits under a special thanks. So even if it's just a donation, they're going to get that name credit with the IMDb credits. So we do have posters, Blu-rays. I was thinking about putting up some scripts. It's just when I do it, this is kind of like how I do it, is buy something like really sturdy, and of course like plastic and all the pages. And I thought about, this is from Deadly Dealings. I'm going to be selling that one, but I want to do that for Scream Dream as well, and be able to sell those. So that's something that's coming up. And we do have a news segment that we are working on. It's not announced yet, but we are working on it for a newscaster, and for like footage of like fans holding up signs. So we're going to let people buy some of those perks and
Nice.
be a part of that. Yeah.
Nice. Now, something else I understand when it comes to Scream Dream, you're thinking about or considering possibility that you're looking towards a theatrical release.
Yes. I've reached out to the distributor about it, and they are wanting that. They're wanting to push for that, and they said yes. They said we're going to take care of it. So that's all they wanted me to know about it. I don't know many details about it except for it's happening. I'm excited for it, and I want people to see the art style that went into this, and give people like a new experience. Because like so many times, like we have horror films that are filmed that's just, it looks real, it looks like real life. It's usually dark, and it kind of like, people try to get that like dark atmosphere, and I'm given like a really dreamy, colorful atmosphere, something that not anybody else is really doing. I mean, of course there are other people who put that in there, but I want people to see it, to appreciate it, and give them something different. So I'm really glad it's going to theaters.
It's awesome. I mean, that must be pretty fucking awesome. I mean, as a filmmaker, any filmmaker, to get your film on a big screen. I mean, and I feel like that's how every movie should be watched because I'm a huge theater person. I mean, I
Yeah.
love going to the movie theaters and watching a movie on the big screen. I feel like that's how every movie should be watched.
Yes. And the thing is like back in the day, um, filmmakers could get their stuff in a theater more easily than it is now, because now it's all about studios, it's all about who like who's going to pick it up and how's it distributed. It's really different, and that stinks for today's time. But what's good about that is there's so many more possibilities now to get people involved, starting a career in this type of industry, to networking. All that has grown, but I wish that getting these films out, not just my film, but there's so many wonderful films in the indie community that are being made, and so much talent. It's
Yes.
ridiculous. The thing is like, and this is like no disrespect to Hollywood, because I love some Hollywood films,
Mhm.
but I love indie because there is so much more creativity, that you don't have somebody dictating what they're gonna put in the film. There's no agenda being pushed, and that's something people asked me. It was like two people asked me the other day. They said, "Why is horror movies so political now?" And I'm like, "There's an agenda that's always being pushed, and it's not that it's a bad thing. Push it, if that's what you believe in, but." There's got to be something for that niche of people who don't want to hear that all the time. You turn on your
Yes.
television, it's politics. You turn on your Facebook, it's politics. You turn on the news, like anything. Look at your phone in the morning and the updates that came in overnight, and the news is just politics. There
Hmm.
needs to be an escape for people to not constantly want to focus on that and just have like a break and say, let me just enjoy something fun. And I think that that's more what's happening in the indie film industry, is that we're making films based on stories and not really the agenda that's being pushed, in my
I
opinion.
I agree, and I mean that's as a lifelong horror fan, that's something that I've noticed in the last maybe 5 to 7 years. It's been, especially when it comes to, like you said, big budget horror movies. There's this whole
Yeah.
political agenda. There's this whole,
Mhm.
and it takes away. I mean, the last movie that I really saw it was the Candyman reboot or remake, whatever the fuck it was. And I remember seeing that in the theaters, and I was just like, it was hitting me with Black Lives Matter, cops brutality, gentrification. It was just like boom, 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 and I was like, I understand that. It's great,
Yeah,
but like, I don't want to see that. When I go to a horror movie and see it in theaters, I don't want to think about real life.
exactly. Exactly. And that's what my film is to do, is to disconnect from reality for however long the runtime is going to be, and to give the viewer an immersive, ethereal, dreamy, horrific experience to 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 dream, to think, to be in another place at another time for a minute, and not like an 80s throwback, like where people put a sideways ponytail up. Not, no, we got like big, huge, bushy 80s hair. We've got like the aesthetics, like we want to really take that viewer back to the 80s, to make them feel like they're like watching something like that. And with the whole like political thing, I do want to say that there's only been like I watched Get Out for like the first time like recently, and I really did enjoy it. Like, I did think
Mhm.
it was really scary, and I thought that it was unique how they did it. But what I really like, as far as like the political films, was Barbie that recently came out. I saw such a divide between men and women. Like, men and women loved it, and then some women and men would not even watch it because, like, oh, it's going to be political. And I'm like, but when you watch it, what was great about that movie was that not only was really the movie about Ken,
Mhm.
but like there was a positive for Barbie for women, and there was a huge positive for men that men needed to hear at the end of the film, like that. that Ken had to learn. And the way that they did that and balanced it out, and it wasn't one sided on anything, that to me was the way that films should really push an agenda if it's going to be pushed.
I
Something
agree.
positive for everyone, not just like one standalone agenda.
I agree. I 100% agree. Now, as a filmmaker, Adam,
Mm-hmm.
is it hard not to go with the norm? And let me break that down a little more. Is it hard not to go with proven success? You know what I mean? Like there's this is a big budget and indie. You see a lot of the same thing. You see guy wearing a mask, who did it, found footage, paranormal. Is it hard to go with something that's completely original and completely new and
Yes.
unproven?
Yes. And I think Ronnie, Jonah, Stephen McGill, them two really know, as well as I do, because Ronnie was in my first film. Stephen was in my first film, and they knew what I was trying to do, but I had such pushback from people, not in like a negative way, but they're like, it's not scary. It's that it looks like Barbie, or it looks, it doesn't look like a horror film. Like you're not, it doesn't look, it's not scary. And I'm like, trust the process. You got to trust it. Like it's new. It's never been done. I mean, you have a movie that's solid pink. I mean, aside from Barbie that was just made, but like I did Deadly Dealings before Barbie. It's extremely pink. It's extremely purple. It's extremely blue. It's very glittery. It's very fantasy. I want, I don't think that it's new per se, because if you look in the 80s, when you have like Labyrinth, or you have like The Dark Crystal, and you have these classics that have this fantasy element. And I think what's been lost in film for a while is that fantasy element.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lot of films that come out that have just a fairy tale. I feel like maybe the agenda is to kind of push that away, and I have felt that personally. But what I found hard about it was mixing that with horror. Not that it was hard to do, but it was to get people to believe in it, and to get people to do that, and to get people to dress the way that I want them to dress. Because so often does people push back during like wardrobe, like I don't want to wear that, like I want to wear something different because it looks too, but there's a reason why I'm trying to incorporate this outfit. um, One of the big things that I think was it was a dress. It was like a one piece for an actress, and it was white, but it had like pastel blues and pinks, like a cloud with those colors mixed in. And it was really dressy. It was really 80s looking, but it was like really like debutante looking. And the lead was heavy metal. She's singing in a heavy metal band. And they're like, why would she dress like that if she's going to be in heavy metal? And I'm like, I'm separating her ego, her personality on stage to how she is in real life. She's not metal her whole life. She's
Yeah.
doing that on a stage, and that's what I'm trying to portray here. And there was just a lot of like pushback. People had questions, and especially with what I do, aesthetic wise, and I think it's probably going to be my mark, at least in horror, if I'm ever able to get there. But to make beautiful, glittery, aesthetic, gorgeous films that are scary and have an atmosphere that I create that's never been done. And I think that, like, when you look at Tim Burton and you look at
Mm-hmm.
his work, obviously the man has done something completely different. And I want to say that it
Correct.
was probably very based on like earlier works like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, the sets, the way they looked and everything. I think, wow, he took inspiration from there, you know? I mean, it's obvious, but like he has this world that he creates in every one of his films. How do you get everybody on board with it? And like is the and the challenges that come with that is like I was talking to Misty Mundy when she first took the role, and I was like, you're not going to be prepared for what we're doing on set. And I was like, it's just, you're not gonna be prepared. So when you get there, you're gonna probably feel overwhelmed. You're gonna look at the sets and you're gonna think it's very gaudy. And it is. It's purposely made gaudy, but when you capture it on film, it looks a little bit different. It comes off different, the tone's different. And as long as you have the actors who are willing to get in that costume and play the role, then you're good, because it's going to come off the way that you want it to. And if it doesn't, then we're going to keep doing it until it does. But it's hard. It's really hard, especially to bring in something different that people aren't used to. And it was honestly a nightmare on Scream Dream.
Yeah, because like horror fans, yes, horror fans like to see something new, but I feel like horror fans have a bland palate when it comes to horror. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
almost like they're afraid of the unknown.
I was talking to somebody recently. I'm not going to say who, but I will say that they work in a distribution company. But they told me, they said, we receive films sometimes that that they're wanting us to put out, and it's 20 minutes of like two people sitting on a couch having a conversation. And he said, that's not bad. That there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, of course, you got to make it interesting, and it's not what we're getting. But he said, even the set design, there's no set, like there's a blank wall behind them.
Mm.
And that's my thing, is like, if you have, like, film has up high points and low points and medium points. And at a high point, is this going to be like there's a lot happening, it's action packed, there's probably a kill going on, there's it's something that is piquing the viewer's interest to look at the film. And then you have like that median line where it's like, I call it just like the story, like where
Mhm.
the normal story is kind of happening, and then things peak from that. So then you have low points, and those low points are going to be something like, there's a chance you could lose your viewer. But every film has to have that. There's always going to be low points in every film. And it could be like a moment that might be a little bit boring, but how do you take that and how do you change it to where the viewer is 100% invested, where they're watching, they don't want to look away, they don't even want to blink? And my answer to that was, we're going to do pink, purple, blue lighting. We're going to have glitter all over everyone. We're going to have pastel colored costumes. We're going to have translucent materials that they're wearing, where it's just, you can't help but look at it. And that kind of brings those low points almost at a high point in a way, because people are invested in looking at it.
And one of the indie horror movies that I've seen, I mean, this is, people say, oh, well, those had a big budget, but it was called Mandy. I don't know if you've seen Mandy and Nicolas Cage in it.
Oh yeah.
And that movie had some low points in it, but the vibrant colors and the hallucinations, and it felt like you were having a fever dream. But it kept you engaged.
Yes, and I think that that's exactly what that's a perfect example, because the story itself, there was a lot of low points. There was a lot
Hmm.
of not there was a lot of scenes where it was drawn out and stuff like that. It didn't make it a bad movie. It was a slow burn, but because it's a slow burn, they added all of that lighting, all of that color and unique camera perspectives that they did. Like, it was, that's what made that movie successful to the best that it could. Because if you took that out, who would watch it?
It'd be hard to watch.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, let's shoot over to Deadly Dealings. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that.
So Deadly Dealings was a film that I did a few years ago. It is coming out this summer. I don't know the date. I only have seen the new poster art, which is lit, and also seen the trailer, which is phenomenal, that the distributor did put out. It's not out yet. People can't see the trailer. People can't see the new poster. But I did look at it with some of my people who was active on that set, and they are just over the moon about it. But that film in particular was about loss. It was about my journey, basically, to where I'm at. I had, in other interviews, I've talked about it. I have dealt with a lot of loss in my life. I've dealt with PTSD. I've dealt with a lot when I worked in Haiti and Santo Domingo. I was there during pretty much most of the aftermath of the earthquake about 10, 11 years ago. And it was horrible. It was,
Imagine.
and and you can tell people all day long how horrible it was, but no one's gonna know, you know. And I was very much. I saw a lot of body parts laying around. I saw a lot of people die in front of me. I had children die in my arms. Their families were already dead, and it was absolutely horrible. It was it was a time in my life that I was going through something very traumatic, and I had to get away. And the only safe place was made for me to go was to get out of the country. So I went to Haiti and I went to San Domingo and I did work over there and I made friends. I worked in orphanages. I was almost sold into sex slavery. I was in a riot where over 100 people were trying to kill me with machetes. Um, I saw voodoo. That was horrifying. And that was very, very, very intensely horrifying. Um, I saw a man get up during voodoo, and I've never told anybody this. I don't really talk about it that often because I don't know exactly what I saw. I know what it was, I just don't know what it was. But we were in the middle of downtown. There was some people doing voodoo. There was obviously a lot of what do you call them? The dolls hanging from the trees that they do voodoo with,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and having one of my moments where I can't remember the exact name. But the horrifying thing was there was a man who was lying there, and every bit of his skin was gone. I've only told this to very, very few people. And he had no eyelids. He had no skin on his face. He had no skin on his entire body. You could see every muscle. It was as if he had been skinned alive. But he stood up and he didn't flinch. He was just straight staring at me. And there was several people that was there. They saw it and they said, "Don't look at it. Don't look at it." I had some Haitians. I was also someone that said, "Just don't look at it. Don't acknowledge it. Don't talk about it. We're not going to talk about it." And I had never in my life felt like I was in the biggest horror film of my life. Like, because how do you see someone stand up and is glaring at you? That it's it was wild. It's I don't even know how to explain it, you know. And when you do try to explain it, it sounds too wild to be true, but it happened. And voodoo was very, very bad over there. But I that I did do deadly dealings that incorporate a story of hurt, loss. Um, it incorporated survivor's guilt because I did feel a lot of guilt when I came back. And I worked in an orphanage. It was like having 20 kids. They played with you. You fell in love with them. They had no families. They lost their families in the earthquake. You feed them, you get them water, and to get them water, just to tell you how hard that was, you had a stick on your arm with two buckets, and you had to walk 3 miles over a hill, over a wall, and there was a little place where you were able to get water out of the ground and fill up these buckets, and you have to carry them. There's only two. There was me and this other woman, and we walked back to the orphanage, and there's this giant, like, what do you call them, barrels, and you had to throw the water in the barrel, and you had to keep filling it up all day long. That's all you did. And once the barrels got full, that had to be enough to shower the kids, to give them water to cook with, and to keep them cool because it's 120 degrees when we
Yeah.
were there. So you can imagine not just the physical work, but if I didn't do what I was to do that day, people would die. Like, I had to go through this motion of like killing myself to get this water back to these campsites for orphanages. And we still lost people, but we did what we could. But that's
That's
where Deadly Dealings comes in. It was a film that was about loss, and it was a film that was about all these different things, and I kind of did like a metaphor. And we actually cut 40 minutes out of the movie, I believe. 40 minutes, because there was too much personal stuff that like even the actors had like a hard time with it. And I was like, it's too much. It ruins the vibe. Let's cut it out. Let's cut the stories out. And yeah, so we did the film, and it was different. Some people were upset that it didn't have the nudity or the sex or the language, and I was like, that's not what this film's about.
mhm.
But we incorporated that into Scream Dream. We gave people what they wanted for Scream Dream. But for people who were looking for something that'll make them kind of think, I know that I had shown the film. The story, just to let you know, the story is about a woman and her brother get in a car accident, and the brother pushes his sister out of the way before a pole comes through the window, and instead of impaling her, it impales him. Her friend is a delivery driver who finds them on the side of the road. She comes to and she sees her parents is kind of screaming in the middle of the road. And she sees her brother beside her. She's covered in his blood. And she lives. And it's 2 years later, and she's never gotten over it. And has survivor's guilt. And because of that, she wants to talk to her brother again. That's the one thing she wants for her family to be normal. And she opens up the gateway by using a spirit board with her roommate, who is a witch, per se. So they open this portal, and the brother comes back, but it's not quite right. Kind of like Pet Cemetery in a way, but that's kind of like where I think I show this woman who her brother died in a car accident, and I didn't know that, but she watched the film and she was crying, and she was like, it was amazing. She was like, it was really beautiful, and it helped me. It helped me watching that, and I was like, okay, that's all. That's all I need to hear.
See, I'm looking forward to seeing this one. This is good because I love when a filmmaker or artist puts a little bit of themselves into their project, and this sounds like this is a little bit of you.
Yeah, there's I've had some people even ask me, and this is just, it's not something that I would want to do, but like, I've had people ask me, like, why don't you do a movie on your life story? And I'm like, it could help people. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I went from a bad situation to being in Haiti and San Domingo. And then as soon as I got back to the States, I wound up accidentally meeting my birth mother. I'm
Wow.
adopted in a closed adoption, and met her. She told me my father was, and I went up to Jersey for a while to meet her, and then I went to the Caribbean for a little bit to get to know my father, and then wound up moving to Kentucky for a few years, getting to know him, and then he got me into. I was working as a fitness model for a company, and also he had got me into modeling, which was a whole different world than filmmaking,
Mhm.
and I didn't like it, but I got accepted in a pretty nice agency that had wanted me to go out to LA, they wanted me to go to New York, they wanted me to go to Korea, they wanted me to do commercials, go record music, go into a studio and send it out to the major studios. I mean, it was like full blown like equation for success, and it was too much for me. So I backed out of it, and then I came back, and A lot happened, but I got into filmmaking. I met Dell Dickey, who is a wonderful actress. I literally just turned on, what was it, a movie on Netflix or something, and she was the lead, one of the leads, and I was like, oh, there's Dale, but she's also in Sordid Lives. She's in some of the Marvel films. She's also one of the key characters in TNT's Claws with Niecy Nash. I love Dale. I've loved her work, and she would come into my coffee shop and we would talk about movies, and she would tell me that I need to get into acting and what to do, and I did that, and I had the chance to go to Hollywood and do that actually several times. I had another actress who actually offered, and she was like my favorite actress growing up, but I worked for her for like one day, and she wanted me to go to LA to live there on her ranch and to do acting in downtown LA, and wanted to introduce me to a lot of people in the industry. And even though she did B films when she was younger, this woman had worked with like Larry Flint, Hugh Hefner. She worked, if you read her book, she's worked with like high profile like people. She worked with Jane Seymour on Dr. Quinn. She was doing so much, and especially like she had created like the different genres in adult entertainment. She was the person who created that. Um, and there was a lot of opportunity there, but again, I got in a situation, it was more of like a domestic situation where I was not allowed to leave, and I luckily was able to get out of there, and that person was arrested, but I missed out on a lot, and I wish if I could go back, I would jump in a car and just go, you know
Yeah.
but there's been a lot of stuff that's been interesting that has fallen on my plate over time. And I don't know. I just don't feel like, my story's mine. And I don't
Mhm.
really see that, being extravagant enough to be in a movie. But I
Yeah.
do have several people quite often ask me that. So maybe
Well,
a book.
yes, maybe a book. A book would be great.
Maybe a book.
Yes. All right. Now, something awesome else that you're doing is pretty awesome. You are working with the Knoxville Horror Social Group, and we were
Yeah.
talking about this, and this sounds absolutely amazing. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about the Knoxville Horror Social Group.
Oh, I'm extremely excited to talk about this. So I met a woman named Sarah Claxton who lives here in Knoxville. And you can't miss her if you are out in public and you see her. Her entire Jeep is all Scream. She has like Scream pictures
Oh,
everywhere. The inside interior is all Scream. The lights are Scream. Like everything on her Jeep is Scream. So like if you see a Scream Jeep, that's Sarah. But and I did. Like I actually saw her Jeep prior to actually meeting her. And I was like, man, that's an awesome Jeep. But there's a group called Knoxville Horror that I'm a part of. Now, there's different subgroups of it. We have Knoxville Horror Book Club, Knoxville Horror Movie Group. We have the Final Girls, Knoxville Horror Final Girls, and I actually think that they're going to be starting a Final Boys group as well.
nice.
And what they do is they do several different activities. And what it is a social group for everyone in Knoxville to get together and actually meet, make friends, meet up often, not just like, one event 1 month, another event like 3 months. It's like every month there is stuff going on, multiple
Nice.
stuff going on. And I've attended the movie group where we watched the movie throughout the month. We met at a tea room. We met at this new tea room that had opened up, and it's so gorgeous. I loved it. But we talked about the movie, and then we talked about horror, and it lasted for about 4 hours, and then we all went home. But what's really cool is that Sarah is orchestrating these events with her team, and we had one that we recently did called the Friday the 13th camping experience. So we were able to get our tent set up. Everybody bought tickets. Went to it was out in Maryville, Tennessee, but it was on haunted land. We had a haunt that we got to go through, paranormal investigating, a cookout, cake, all that, and raffles. They give away a lot of stuff, and then also we watched Friday the 13th movies on big screen. outside.
Nice.
And that one was a success, but we had people coming from out of state for it as well. So obviously, it's kind of like going different places. So we're going to be expanding that, and that is coming soon. I'm running the new Twitter page with the new name that's coming, and it's not really out there for like you can go follow it, but like it's not. We haven't introduced it to the 8,000 members that's on this group yet, so that way they can follow it. But what's really cool is like we have an event coming up, two events that I'm really excited for is the Jaws experience. So they rented out this floating bar on Norris Lake here in Tennessee, and it's going to have like tubes where we can like swim in the lake, and going to have the big screen to watch Jaws.
Oh, that's fucking
So
badass.
I'm excited. There's a Sleepy Hollow ball coming up where we all have to dress in elaborate Victorian era clothes. And we are going to have like an open bar. There's going to be food. There's going to be prizes. There's going to be silent auctions. It's going to be a really nice, nice ball. And it's not low budget at all. Like, I mean, it's really, really nice what they're doing. They're going all out with the decorations. And that is later this year. And of course, the group gets together and we go to the movies together. We go to the Regal Cinema and we watch horror movies together. And then afterwards, we meet in the lobby of the theater and we talk about it, take pictures. We see who liked it, who didn't like it. Like, what did you not like about it? You know, what did you like about it? So we really discuss it, and like everybody networks and has become like family to each other, and it's a great group and it's expanding to all of the US. So go follow Knoxville Horror on Facebook. The Twitter page is coming soon.
I'm definitely going to follow on Facebook. And by the way, Tennessee. So I've been to a lot of states in this country. Tennessee is one of the few I haven't been to. So I'm definitely
Oh,
looking
you
to check
should.
out Tennessee. Definitely looking.
I used to be a truck driver and I drove all over the country. I was a 48 state truck driver. And out of all the states that I had visited, there was two that always felt like home. Louisiana. I loved being in New Orleans, and I also loved being back in my hometown, Tennessee. Tennessee is just such a gorgeous place. There's a lot of history here. There's a lot of haunted places here, um, and like you can go like on a lot of the trails, and you'll see like really old graves and stuff from like when people, you know, before even cars, like you had a horse, you know. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of things like that. But even like the Evil Dead was filmed in Morristown, and that's like about 35 minutes away from me. So yeah, I've
Nice.
driven by it several times, went to it. Um, but then, you know, there's just a lot happening here as well. Everybody's moving here and it's becoming more expensive. But
All right, so yeah, Tennessee is on my list of places to go to, especially if you guys have a horror convention. If you guys have a horror convention, I'm going to be there
we
as well.
got a few. I know they just recently did FrankenCon here.
Mhm.
That was one. There is some businesses here that's really unique. We did have Grindhouse Video that moved from like I think they were in Florida and they moved here to Knoxville, and I was like, what? Like Grindhouse Video is here? And
Mhm.
sure enough, they were. And they had like Vinegar Syndrome titles, Scream and Shout Factory, Massacre Video.
Oh,
They had like VHS of like all the old adult stuff, plus like merchandise everywhere. And there not only was that here, but there is a place right in Maryville. I cannot think of the name of it, but it's connected to like a book place and a bar underneath. And the bar I know is called the Bird and the Bee, and it's a great place. They just had like a gym in the holograms thing there where we got to meet Samantha Newark and watch episodes of Jim with her. She's the one who voiced Jim, and I got to show her Scream Dream, and she was like completely in love with it. And I was like, "You were the inspiration, like everything in this." So it was really surreal.
love it, Adam. Listen, everybody, go over to Indiegogo and go ahead and put your support into Scream Dream, as well as look out for Diddley Dillings. And also, get over to Facebook if you're a horror fan. You don't have to just be in Knoxville. You can be anywhere in the United States
Yes.
or in the country, I mean, or in the world. Go ahead and sign up for the Knoxville Horror Social Group, as Travis from the Horror Room will be doing as well. Adam, where can everyone find you, by the way?
I'm on Instagram. Instagram is like mostly just kind of like my personal self. I post some horror things, but it's mostly just like different things that I do. Like I've been collecting some stuff and having them graded lately. And that's been like a really fun hobby. But I also just like post me myself there. Facebook, you can find me. But pretty much all I'm gonna post is some like really funny videos that I might find while I'm, you know, but then also, I'm like constantly posting about Scream Dream, Deadly Dealings, horror, things like that. There is a Twitter page that I have for myself, and it's Adam Freeman as well. And also, I'm running the you can find it with Southeast Horror is the new name that we're going to be going by for Knoxville Horror. But that Twitter page is up. We just have not opened it up to the group yet. They don't know that it's there yet. So anybody can follow it and go ahead and see what I'm posting. What's really cool with that, especially the Twitter page for Southeast Horror, and something that's kind of unique, is so often do people say that they're horror fans. And I'll be like, have you seen The Evil Dead? Um, or I'll ask about like an older film, like I saw, the one that came out in like, was it 2013, 2010, something like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, so you haven't seen the original? They're like, no, but they said that they're a horror fan. So this isn't to like down anybody for not knowing those films, but what that page really does is I am going into depth. Given trivia, synopsis, the horror essentials. I do some posts that are shot on video specifically, so people can explore the shot on video a little bit easier, know trivia, what it's about, some of those films that's not really known about to a new generation that may not know about it. I go all the way back to the very first horror film, which is House of the Devil from the 1800s. I give some trivia synopsis on that. I've even posted about the first Frankenstein film from 1910 with a very different looking Frankenstein. It is a lost film, but I also talk about lost films and give trivia with that. And then I do like essential 80s with, I did like Night of the Demons, killer clowns from like outer space, and I give a little bit about the film, some unique aspects about the film, some trivia, and I post like pictures on the posters with it as well. But then I also do like director shout outs. So like lately, sadly, but lately I've been, I'll be in conversation. I'll be like, do you like Lucio Fulci or do you like Dario Argento? And these are a bit younger people that, I'm talking to, and they're like, who's that? And I'm like, oh. So I'll do
Mhm.
like a director spotlight and I tell about their films, and I may do like art house films, like I did Lizard in a Woman's Skin through Lucio Fulci, and talking about like the um like how it was mind bending, and why it's essential, and some of like Lucio Fulci's aspect of making it. And there's different lists and different things. I did like the Video Nasties. I did a cannibal film from the 80s, Cannibal Ferox. I ask questions, but I make posters with it and the questions on it. And usually, like if it's like, what is the most obscure horror film that you've ever seen or that you know about, and like I put like the Sinful Dwarf picture behind it, and different. There's like each question with a picture kind of goes with it, but kind of like makes the person be like, what is that? Like, what movie is that?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it that it's I kind of look at it as like just kind of like trying to educate more of the newer generation as to why this is important. Um, because also like, people, that love horror and are part of the group, they may not know, they just don't know, and they need to be able to have like an open mind with it. And I also delve into the extreme, y'all. So I don't do it often, and I don't recommend anybody to watch those movies unless unless you know what it is and you are comfortable with it. But they are extreme underground films. They are nihilistic, controversial, And I still go into the history of that because it's important to know for horror history, for film history, what was being made, what's being done. And so I give a little bit of everything, and even the Italian films and the Giallo and the mystery thrillers. So a little bit of everything on that page. It's really fun, and we're going to be launching that soon. You can still follow it now, but we'll be opening up those gates here really soon.
Oh, I can't wait to see that, man. Listen, yeah, it sounds like a fucking blast. So,
Awesome.
Adam, listen, it's been fun, man. Again, listen, I can't
Yes.
wait to see Scream Dream. I really can't, man. It looks beautiful, man. It looks like a dream, man. It really does. I'm looking forward to seeing it. All
I'm
right,
excited for you to see it. I want you to.
I can't wait to have you back on after seeing it, so and we can talk about it.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. That's Adam Freeman. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye, everyone.